Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. I am Nick Stimulus, and welcome to the latest edition of the Brick Marketing Live podcast. Today's Tuesday, May 12th, 2026, and we have lots of great things to talk about today in the world of AI, SEO, content marketing, digital marketing. So we're going to dive right in. So the first article that we're going to look at today is the title is 8 GEO metrics to track in 2026. It's a great article from Search Engine Land. And so, rather than getting into each specific core generative engine optimization metrics that they believe are important to track in 2026, there's really two that stood out to me. It was actually the first one, which is AI citation frequency. So, how often your brand, content, and website are cited in the AI generated answers at all of the LLMs or AI platforms. So, that was one thing that I think is very important. And then the other one actually was the number eighth one on the list, which was conversion influence after AI interaction. So, I think, my opinion, and I'd love to hear what the team has here to say, Catherine and John. But I would love, is conversion influence after AI interaction. I believe that that's actually probably the first one. And to me, that is literally conversion. So how is AI influencing the buyer, and what actions are they taking after they find out about a brand, a company, or product or service in AI? So I don't know. What do you guys think, Catherine, John? What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. Anecdotally, from our own experiences and speaking with clients, it appears as if we have our impressions on how AI is affecting decision making, but we don't know yet. So it'll be nice to finally see some data. Big picture, I feel like this article is pushing us in the right direction because as it stands right now, there is very little that can actually track for data just because the tracking is not there. Like the individual platforms, aside from Copilot, which is part of Bing, are not
Right.
giving us any information to look at. So if this articles like this start coming out and telling us what to track, then hopefully and perhaps at least the AI platforms will start giving us this information, or we'll have some third party stuff that will give us this information.
Yeah, no, I think this is great. John, what do you think?
Yeah, we're still in the early days when it comes to like what to look for in tools. Like there are barely any tools out there for you to really track what's going on. So having an idea of what you should be looking at yourself, even if you don't have all the data, just like there for you to start thinking about. And then when we
Mhm.
start to get tools, you'll be ahead of the curve, like knowing what you should be like really focusing in on. So I think that's why like
Yeah,
this article is great for that reason.
Mhm.
absolutely. Awesome. Agreed. Next is an article from The Drum that is entitled by Mark Ritson, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Marketers can no longer afford to laugh at Reddit. So I think this is fascinating, because Reddit went from kind of this, message board, obscure platform to oh, well, it's helping in AI search and AI SEO and answers engine optimization and generative engine optimization, to now it's, we actually, heard from, a client earlier this week that says, and their audience was definitely not the Reddit audience. And they were like, oh, well, we think we want to get a presence in Reddit. I'm like, really? So I think it's actually very true that I think that Reddit is absolutely a great place, but I also believe at the same sense, not for every brand. I think, there's
Mm.
some types of companies that are going to get a lot more out of having a presence on Reddit, like someone like us. We have a presence we're establishing on Reddit. We'll get a lot out of it. But I think a lot of other maybe B2C or non technical or, just different, can you imagine a wedding related business on Reddit? I can't. Right. So like that's my point. So, but again,
Yeah.
I think it's a major player now. So Catherine, John, what do you guys think on that?
I think it's fascinating that AI has caused a rebrand for Reddit. I mean, because
Yep.
we I used to just think of it as an entertainment thing. Oh, it was a place for me to get like spoilers for a show that I wasn't sure if I wanted to watch. Yeah, it's random stuff like that. I never even would think of it as a viable place for business, and we never recommended it to clients as such. But slowly, because of AI, because it became clear very quickly that AI was using it for some of its source material, you're like, and it caused the reputation of Reddit to elevate. So I feel like
Right.
this article is spot on, because I've still talked with people. Reddit, why would you? All people do is argue there. Like, I don't want to
Right.
promote my business there. But that's not true anymore. That's not, I
Right.
mean, it's still kind of true, but that's not all it is anymore. And it's sort of rebranded naturally. Usually, when you hear of a rebrand, it's the company choosing intentionally. But this was
Right.
the opposite. The circumstances caused it to elevate, and it's very fascinating. But like Nick said, you take it with a grain of salt. Your audience still might not be there. You only want to
Right.
spend time with our limited time and resources for your marketing in places where your audience actually is.
Yeah,
That would be
John,
nice.
what do you think, John? Because I know you manage our Reddit, the Brick Marketing Reddit. So what do you
Yeah.
think? What do you think?
I think there are two very, very different sides to the platform. There is like the still like person to person aspect, which is probably still 80% of it. And then there's
Right.
the 20% that is businesses and people marketing to each other. And I think they don't really touch that much.
Mm.
So in that sense, I think that like the whole like marketing side of Reddit is in its own little bubble where people who are outside of it aren't going to touch it, and that's like not that valuable. But where the value of Reddit comes is, you know, how it gets cited in AI. So like that's kind of the only reason your business should kind of be on Reddit right now, unless it's something that like people will like really resonate with, like, or you know, or maybe somewhere they could put like customer service types of posts and stuff like that. That's the only other type of like businesses that might benefit from Reddit outside of like the whole AI thing. So
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, there's just it's we'll see if it continues to be that way, or if like the rebrand will sort of like reverse after like AI LLMs start to like move away from Reddit, because it kind of is a little bit of like a risk, right? Because anyone can post
Mm.
anything and then it has high authority. So
Right.
we'll see how that changes over time.
I agree. That's actually a really good point. I'm seeing that a lot on LinkedIn, where there's there's other marketers that are quote unquote marketing themselves as Reddit experts that are essentially, like you said, just posting new pieces of content, and then it's getting cited in by the AI platforms fast as an authoritative source. And so I think, my personal opinion, I think we got about maybe 2 years left of the Reddit train. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And then I think the LLMs, as learning AI platforms that they are, artificial intelligence is going to learn to say, okay, been there, done that. Now let's go to legitimate news sources, real authoritative
Yeah.
sites,
The
So we'll see.
reason,
We'll
yeah,
see.
the reason why Reddit is used so much is because it's just free, open
Yep.
source. Like they
Right.
can easily just take from that, and that's the reason why it gets cited so much. It's the only
Exactly.
option for LLMs right now. So, but I think that's going to
Exactly.
change.
Yep, yep, agreed. Want to take a moment and just let everyone know that we're broadcasting this live on the Brick Marketing website at brickmarketing.com/live, on the Brick Marketing official LinkedIn page, and on the Brick Marketing official Facebook page. If you are not joining us live, we are also going to, by later today, this podcast is going to be available on all of the major podcast platforms. So grab your favorite podcast music app and search for Brick Marketing or Brick Marketing Live, and you will find this podcast. So, moving on. Next is an article from our blog, from the Brick Marketing blog, which is entitled Break Free from Analysis, Paralysis, and Digital Marketing. And so, this is something, the concept of analysis paralysis, we've seen this for decades, literally for years, regardless of the type of industry and type of client. And really, what this means is you report so much, you look at so much data, which is important to do, but you miss the underlying goals of what does the data really need to accomplish. I mean, I've literally been on, been in, kind of these strategic meetings with teams and organizations that they literally get in the weeds so much so that then we spend the next hour, 2 hours on up getting all these minuscule pieces of data, which then at the end of the day, like, was that really necessary? Because it's not helping us make any decisions better than it was if we didn't have it. So the point is, report the things that are important to your business, important to the underlying digital marketing and sales strategy for your organization, and stick with it consistently. And don't be distracted by, I would say, the weeds type of, minuscule, subsets of data that maybe aren't as important. Stick to things that are important to help you make your decisions in a timely fashion, that you're not just paralyzed. You have so much data information overload that you can't move forward. So I don't know,
Mm.
Catherine, I know you and I have encountered this for
Yeah.
years. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that? And then John, I want to get your thoughts as well. But what do you think, Catherine?
This article was written partially in response to the fact that we have seen over and over again some clients actually getting a bit stuck. They would see a piece of data that doesn't make sense, really want to pick it apart, ask why. Okay, to some extent, that's great. But was that really worth the hour discussion that we just had that actually had no conclusion? Because look, at the end of the day, the data might not be accurate in the first place. And then you think, what could I have been doing with that hour that would have been better than over talking?
Right.
Writing an article that you could have put up on your blog, writing a batch of social media posts for the next week. What could you have done with that time? You need to always make sure that no matter what you're analyzing, that you do it and then you move on. And it's really big picture stuff that we're talking is the best way to look at data. If it's taking all day to analyze it, we could have spent our time doing other things. What you need to
Agreed.
do is look at what you look at, take in the insights that you take in, and then go on with your life
Yeah.
because you have other things to do, honestly. No need to get stuck.
Agreed.
Yeah.
John, what do you think?
And one of the worst things is when people get like stuck on like vanity metrics and stuff like that when it comes to analytics, where they're like, oh my gosh, look at all these impressions. Well,
Right.
what do those impressions get you? And then you look further and it's like, okay, 1 million impressions. Well, only 0.8% of people clicked on your ad there. And what did that get for you,
Mm,
right? And it's the same thing with like on YouTube, like YouTube subscribers. It's like, okay, you have 1 million subscribers, but what is the worth of each individual person? Are they good subscribers, or did you somehow
Right.
trick
mm,
them into following you, right? So you really
mm,
need to look at the more important things. I think, this article has which data you really need, and that's a very, very valuable thing to look at.
mm.
Yeah. Agreed. Great point. All right, moving on. Next is an article from Marketing Week. There are no quick wins. Airwallex on benefiting from the compound effect of branding. So I thought this was a great article. And to me, what resonated with me, especially in the B2B world, that the compounding effect of branding and the compounding effect that you could absolutely tie to digital marketing. And so that's something that that a lot of folks sometimes really miss the mark on. They view channels of digital marketing, let's just say, whether it's your search engine optimization or your AI search or generative engine optimization or answer engine optimization, your content marketing, your email marketing, your social media, your pay-per-click advertising, regardless of the channel of digital marketing, you view it in a silo. But especially now with the advent of AI and how things are moving forward. I mean, we've always integrated every channel of digital marketing together. And so that's the approach that works. So you get that compounding effect, right? If you just focus on one channel and you say, okay, we published this awesome article on this website, and that's it. And that's it. And you say, okay, well, we did a press release, right? And then that's it. No, you want to consistently do a press release with newsworthy topics. You want to consistently over time, you know, social media, the consistency of social media, have a compounding effect with your marketing. So I think that I thought this was a great article to see on Marketing Week. And so, yeah, Catherine, John, what do you guys think on this?
Yeah, I actually was not able to read this one, so
Okay.
because it's paywalled,
Well,
so I have
thanks
no
for sharing on
opinion.
that. Okay.
Sorry,
Well, I mean,
sorry.
honestly, but the compounding effect, soon, right? If we just stick to that, the compounding effect of marketing, which is what we focus
Oh
on.
yeah, I mean that's true. We've seen that over and over again that it works. Like that's why we tell clients to start with the foundation
Yes.
and
Yeah.
build on that, because we know that if you have your foundation nailed and it becomes a habit, then you can add activities, and then I was talking about this in relationship to social media earlier. It
Hmm.
may not seem like 2 social media posts a week is a lot,
Right.
but times that by 10, now you have 20 social media posts, 10 weeks.
Right.
And that really starts to mean something, because when somebody clicks on your profile or they see you, they'll see all this marketing activity. And you don't have to feel like you have to do everything at once, because your consistent efforts are what will
Right.
compound.
Yep. Absolutely. John, what do you think?
Yeah, and we have wear 'em down marketing, right? This is literally that. It's
Yep.
it's
Yep.
it's it's all about long term, like just like Catherine said, couple posts a week. You're going to keep showing up to those people who are like within your funnel, right? And it's not about doing it once, because what does one time do? Nothing really, right?
Right.
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 It's just having those systems in place where you're posting frequently, you're writing blog posts, you're doing all those things within digital marketing to get yourself out there long term.
Yeah, yeah. And in case, for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, Wear 'em Down Marketing, go to Amazon and download the Wear 'em Down Marketing, it's called, book that we published earlier this year. And that is one of the very concepts is, like you said, John, consistency and the compounding effect. So,
Hmm.
yeah, so it's a good call on that. All right, moving on. So here's an article, interesting, from CNBC. AI is disrupting the advertising business in a big way. Industry leaders explain how. And so, what the takeaway that I got from this is that it is, as they put it, a huge transformation. And specifically, it quotes a report from Forrester released last June that showed more than 60% of U.S. ad agencies are already making use of generative AI, with 31% of those individuals saying they're exploring use cases for the technology. And so what's interesting about this, that's last June, right? That's almost a year ago. And the CNBC article is oh, it is a year old. But here's the thing: what does that look like now, right? So to me, I thought this was interesting. Is we know AI is disrupting everything, and in our world, AI is absolutely fantastic for ad writing, the creative aspects of developing an ad program. You still absolutely need the human approach to make sure the brand is consistent throughout. But there's no doubt. I mean, this is AI is absolutely a disruptor in the ad world, and especially in the digital ad space. So,
Mm.
in my mind, I think it's just a matter of time before it even gets better.
Mm.
But I don't know, Catherine, John, what do you guys think on this quickly?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a disruptor, right?
It really is.
This headline is just as relevant now as it was a year ago,
Right.
right? Uh, it, we don't know where things are headed yet. We still don't have too many answers from a year ago.
Hmm.
And there's also a flip side, though. And the flip side is we have to be careful what we're blaming AI on.
Right.
Like, is it AI's fault that the disruption is happening, or are people changing? Is it both? Like, we don't know what the reason is. So it makes me feel just a tinge uncomfortable blaming everything on AI. However, it really is a disruptor because it's causing our behaviors to change. So the same is true for advertising, just like it is anything else.
Right. John, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, like this is a year ago, and it's already asking these questions, or talking about how AI is disrupting. A year later, we know that AI is being used more and more, right? So I guess it was like a good like baseline, like predictive sort of thing to be like, hey, right, like the writing was on the wall a year ago, right? And now
Hmm.
we're sort of seeing, um for sure, like how like the timeline has like shifted to where like now AI is being used a lot, to the point where some people will call it out online. Like some people will be like, hey, this was AI generated, or I can something's a little bit off about this, right? So we've gone from just being like AI is going to be used in the advertising business to AI is being used in the advertising business. It
Right.
was, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. Moving
Yes.
on. Next is an article from Search Engine Journal. This is a great one. 7 common AI website mistakes that are easy to avoid. So, what I found interesting about this, and I'm going to read what the mistakes are, but I found interesting is that people are actually using AI to build their entire websites. I mean, we know that's coming. We know, a few colleagues of mine that I'm connected to on LinkedIn actually did that for their businesses. They completely used AI to build all aspects of their site. So, part of me is like, okay, it's good, but so to read the mistakes in the article, positive and negatives. Well, number one is generic design trends. Yeah, so like and it's talking about prompting. Give me something modern. To me, that's a huge negative. Is if it's just like using AI to write content, quite frankly, without giving the big picture and really training the LLM to understand the full goals, right? So, like, to me, it's the same thing is applicable for web design, right? So, like, do you want your site to look like every other site out there or every other site in your industry? So, generic design, that's one. Unexpected user interaction feedback. Um, I think that's another thing is honestly usability. Like, AI can't see what your users are doing or know truly your audience and how they're going to react. I mean, it right now it's not as intelligent to know that yet. Broken or confusing UX patterns. I agree with that. How many times I've had discussions with Chad or Gemini, and I've pushed back on something, and then it literally folds and says, "Oh yeah, you're right." So like that's another thing. Another point the article says is weak messaging and product explanation. Again, the content piece, poor information hierarchy and structure, lack of evidence based judgment and over reliance on AI. That's huge because, you know, lack of experience based judgment, right? Like, it's even if you with highly prompted, unless it's really learned it, your business, your industry, your audience, and even then some, it doesn't necessarily have the right, it can't make the judgment calls like you might be
Mm.
able to. And then, so those are some of the points that it kind of this article talked about. So Catherine, what do you think? John, what do you guys think on AI mistakes for building a site using AI in this article?
I listened to this piece on a podcast. I think it might have been an NPR podcast, and I forget the podcast name. But the point was these podcast hosts discovered vibe coding on Claude and just went nuts. They were creating websites. One of them created an app, and everything functioned and it worked. And they handed everything to a developer and said, "What do you think?"
Hmm.
And the developer was like, it's okay. Like, because he could see inconsistencies in the code.
Right.
He found some vulnerabilities in the code. He said that it's generic design. Over time, people are going to start to be able to tell that it was created with AI.
Hmm.
Same as content, same as anything. So I think that brings up a good point. Uh, I think that this aligns with the points in the article, to be honest. You just have to be careful, just like with using AI for anything.
Right.
The tricky part is if I were to turn around and use AI to develop something, I'm not a developer, so I don't know what good looks like, especially
Right.
from a back end perspective. That's the tricky thing. And the same is true for other people who maybe don't have the writing experience that I have. Do they know what good looks like? They probably know good enough looks like. But when you're representing your brand and your business, good enough's not going to cut it.
And what does it look like under the hood? See, to
Yeah.
me, that would make me honestly that might keep me up at night, knowing that my
Mm,
website was built by AI. Because I've built pages, of code on our website, on some of our other brands that we own websites, using Claude, using Chat and Gemini, and it does a great job because I know how to
mm,
read code. I can
right.
read code, so I look at it and I say, okay, this is following a natural regression. I understand what they're doing here, and
Right.
it saves me a lot of time. But like you said, if you don't know what you're looking at, and you say, oh, this is great, could be really messed up underneath. And to me, in
Mm,
my mind, also could be, what if, now we want to talk about web security. What if 5 years from now, you have hackers that go after all these sites that were built using these tools, using the AI platforms? Now that's a security issue, if you think about it. So, John, what do you
mm-hmm.
think on this? And then we'll
I,
move
I
on. John,
yeah,
what
I
do you
was
think?
basically going to bring up like exactly all of those points, like one to one, where it's like there are issues with security. They all, look similar. They all, it's all very clear. I think maybe it could be, a fun thing to play with if you have an idea for an app, and maybe as a proof of concept to send to somebody who knows what they're
Yes.
doing, right?
Right, right,
But
exactly.
if you're publishing a website that was completely made by, say, Claude, I think that in the future there's going to be something about them that is vulnerable, and then all of them
Yep,
will have that same issue because it's all coming from the same source. So
right.
I
Mm-hmm.
think you should really, really hire someone who really knows how to code if you're
Mm-hmm.
if you're making a website for your business, or if you're making an app. It's just that's like an essential.
I
Mm-hmm.
agree. 100%. Moving on. Next article. So here's an article that we wrote on Search Engine Land. AI SEO punishes lazy marketing strategies. So we published this at the good folks at Search Engine Land, and I'll tell you the thought here is, for years, everyone, myself included, quite frankly, and everyone that I know, has pretty much relied on growth of lead gen and growing their businesses using search engine optimization, using pay per click advertising, maybe content marketing thrown in the mix, to help your SEO. Social media, maybe to a lesser degree, but social media as well. And that's really it. But AI search or AI SEO or generative engine optimization or answer engine optimization now require brands and companies to market themselves properly. In every channel, you need to, in order to come up in those, prompt search results on ChatGPT, on Gemini, on Copilot, on Claude, on Perplexity, right? In the AI overviews in Google. In order to come up in those places, you need to market yourself heavily. That means all the traditional stuff, but and then some, right? And that includes stacking citations of getting, your brand, your product, your service, whatever industry you're in, highly visible in the relevant places to your audience in a coordinated fashion, real marketing. And so, AI search, and we're seeing this. I'm hearing this from a lot of companies. Oh, geez, well, we're just not visible. Why is our competitor here? Well, let's look at it. Let's deconstruct what your competition is doing. Your competition is marketing the heck out of their company in all these ways, and your business isn't, right? All you're doing is maybe you have a PPC campaign running or an SEO campaign running, but that's it. So in my mind, and it's mean to say lazy, but we were all grouped in that because we all got complacent because it worked for decades. Now we're in a place where we have to rethink everything and really market heavily in a coordinated fashion in order to do well in AI search. So, Catherine and John, what do you think on this?
Yeah. AI is exposing marketing vulnerabilities, plain and simple. For
Yep.
years, as marketers, we have fallen into routines. Businesses have gotten to know what works, they lean on that. What works may have been 20% of all that is possible for a marketing strategy. And they just kept doing the same things over and over again without thinking, okay, let's change things up. AI is forcing a shakeup of that. We never should have treated marketing this way. We always should have taken a comprehensive strategic approach, the collective we. I'm not sure who's doing it and who's not, but now AI is forcing us to remember what comprehensive marketing looks like, because that
Right.
sort of comprehensive uh, strategy is what gets rewarded, if you think about it, in the AI answers. Because the whole idea of citations and everything, that's basically, if you think about it, that's your marketing. That should have been your marketing all along. Yes, press releases, for example, offer AI some additional data when they're searching for answers for things that people are asking. And so a lot of people are starting to do them again. We should have been doing them all along,
Oh yeah, you're
for
totally right.
example.
I mean, we stopped doing them years ago when there was no more
Yeah.
SEO value and they weren't actually real pickups in press. But now, guess what? We're doing them again. Because we're seeing pickups in press actually, and it's helping on the on the AI SEO side of things. So, John, what do you think on this? Get your
Yeah,
thought
I
on this.
mean, AI switched everything up, right? Now it's really more focused on the content rather than, like you said, having those PPC campaigns, doing just base SEO. That's not enough anymore. And it's good that it's forcing your brand to, do, articles and press releases and actually getting out there and all that sort of stuff, because it's
Mhm.
just good in general. It's forcing you to have, like, I guess, better, like, marketing hygiene, right? Like, it's
Right,
just you were supposed to be doing all of these things in the past, but it was easy to just, like, not, because SEO was so strong. But
right.
now it's a little bit less strong, and there is more value in doing the other stuff.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Moving on. So this is a gated article. So those of you, I recommend you sign up. But high level, marketers need to prepare themselves for the end of the click. If your growth model still depends on paying for search, you'll soon be out of luck. A strong brand is needed to navigate industry changes. So this literally ties into what we were just talking about, which is an article for Marketing Week, by the way, opinion post. But this literally is talking about it. It's the same lens as, as people that were lazy marketing or just overly dependent on traditional channels of digital marketing and SEO and PPC only. This one talks about pay-per-click advertising and paid search. And if you're only depending on that, well, it's time to not just depend on that. And so, um, you know, those of you that are listening, if you're in charge of your marketing, if you're in charge of, if you're a business owner or C-suite, and this should, the alarm bell should be ringing seriously, and you should be looking at your budgets for, and if not this year, you missed the boat, but for next year, you should be absolutely not just putting AI search or generative engine optimization or answer engine optimization as a line item down. You should say, okay, to your marketing team, right? Or your agency, whomever you're working with, you know, we need to diversify what we're doing in marketing, how we're marketing our brand, how we're generating leads, and we need to do it fast because, what's going to happen is as SEO continues to get, diminished over time, the transfers happening to AI search, the companies that are really pushing hard and marketing properly are going to be rewarded long term. We'll have a really good foundation. And then guess what? You'll be stuck, behind, literally behind. So Catherine, John, would you guys want to chime in on this one?
Yes, let's think about what the phrase paying for search really means. That implies that there has to be search that is looking the way that we think it's going to look.
Yep,
We don't know what search is going to look like because of AI's intervention year from now, 2 years from now.
exactly.
It could look similar, but it might not. So relying on that, what happens if AI search, if paying for search, if the search model that we know is gone a year from now, and it might
It
be, frankly.
I personally think it's going to be gone. I don't know when.
Yeah,
and no
I
one
don't
has a
either.
crystal ball to no one has a crystal ball to predict.
Yeah,
But if I had to, just an educated, been doing this for almost 3 decades, guess, I would say it's coming down very soon.
yeah,
Just take a look at chat and how their ad program, which for those of you that have advertised on chat, please comment in social media. Let us know how it's
mm,
going. I would love to hear because I'm waiting. And if no
mm,
one's listening, I guarantee you no one from chat is listening to our podcast. But if you happen to be, please allow Brick Marketing to advertise because I am dying to test it.
yes, that would be fun.
But
Yes,
I'll tell you, but like that's not keyword based, right?
no,
So that's just it, right? So it's
yeah,
Gemini one day is just going to be thematic,
yep.
right? Type
We
advertising, really.
It will. And so then there would be nothing to pay for. So what's happening now, what we're seeing is people have said, oh no, organic is going down and now we need to figure out a way to get traffic. And one of the answers that people have been reaching for is
Hmm.
to pay for search.
Right,
But you're going to be in a jam again
right,
because paying for search implies that search has to exist the way that we understand it in order for to be able to pay to be represented on it. And it
right.
might not be the case. We have to be agile. And the best way to be agile is to have not all of our eggs in one basket to begin with.
And if everyone is thinking that way, or if a lot of brands and businesses are thinking that way, like, oh boy, SEO is diminished down, let's invest more in pay per click. Guess what?
Good point.
Right? Like, there's only what 2 or 3 positions that everyone fights for in that top section of search results currently in Google. Everyone's fighting for it, right? So like if you all of a sudden you have a flood of more advertisers coming in, click costs are going to be higher, ROI is going to drop, then what? You need to diversify your marketing. Market a lot of other ways, get creative, be places that your competition are not there. Right? You want to be where
Mhm.
your competition is, but you want to be where your competition is not. That's how good marketing works, quite frankly. So, John, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that the way that people search is just going to change like pretty rapidly. I feel like, they're already like testing it, like we talked about last week on YouTube, where there's that new function where you can basically essentially talk to like an LLM that'll suggest you videos instead of going through your recommended or using the normal, search function. I feel like at some point, like Google might be one of the first to just like flip the switch and you're going to
Oh
go to
yeah,
google.com and it's just going to be like a Gemini
I
like
agree.
prompt area, right? So it's like, who know, like I
Yes.
don't think they're ready for it, but
No,
it's
not
going
yet.
to happen eventually. And that's
It
just the way
is.
that
And
it's going to be.
you know what I'm looking forward to, John, honestly, because you and I and Kath, like the three of us and other members of our team, we've been saying this stuff since like until we're blue in the face. So many places, in person, on webinars, on this podcast. And I'll tell you, it's gonna happen. And I'd love to go back and say, see, to all the people, right? I mean, we called it just
Hmm.
because you can just see it right in front of you, That's why you have to evolve, people. Can't just stay
Hmm.
still. You have to continue to push. So, next, interesting article from Ad Age. The CMO mandate, 5 shifts that matter now. So let me read the 5 shifts. Connected systems are the foundation of growth. AI accelerates, but your gaps set the speed limit. Agility starts with clarity. ROI requires shared ownership, and marketers are now change drivers. So these are all amazing points. To me, the few that resonated with me is AI accelerates but your gaps are the speed limit. So it's true. So AI is helping you move things forward as a tool, like we've always said. But if there's gaps in your knowledge, gaps in your skill set, it's going to show. AI is not going to fill that gap, and no platform is going to fill that gap, right? So it's a tool. And then the last one I think that really resonated with me is marketers are now the change drivers, and so which is interesting. And it even says here is this is the CMO role is expanding in every direction. We're still expected to build the brand, drive demand, and now we're also expected to influence revenue, guide AI adoption, and shape operating models. Okay, so what I just stated there is the reason why marketing people need to get paid more. Honestly, we have a hard job. I mean, seriously. And so, but this just goes to show you that as marketers, right? I believe that statement lends the case for why the people that specialize too much in one area of marketing is going to be the thing of the past. That's my opinion. Because in order to do well with, like, literally, we just read that and it's true. It's you need to be, you know, generate revenue, build the brand, right? Those are two separate functions, right? You need to, help with AI adoption. That's a third function, right? Like, if you look at that, all of those things are true. And for marketers in today's world, this is why, it's essential. This is why we always say, you need one eye on the big picture and one eye on the detail, always. And so, Catherine, we always talk about it, big picture thinking. I
Mm.
mean, literally, this
Mhm.
is exactly what we're talking about here. So yeah, if you guys could chime in, what do you think, Catherine, John? What do you guys think on this?
There was a time when marketing roles, the titles for these roles were very separated.
Right,
Very. Like, I remember meeting somebody that worked somewhere and her role was director of storytelling. Okay.
right,
But so that's an extreme example. But even having titles such as PPC specialist or
right,
content creation expert, we're seeing all of that fade away in favor of more generic director of marketing, marketing
right,
manager, marketing associate, roles like that, because marketers have been forced to wear many hats at once. But in a way, I feel like it's a good thing because as a marketer, I've always believed that we needed to have a hand and a role in helping to generate revenue. Because if you look at the sales funnel, it's all right there.
right,
Marketing is responsible for creating content and materials that can assist in the sales process, and that's really what we should be doing. But there was a time where there was such a thing as a marketing communications role, and they tended to do a lot of internal communication stuff in bigger companies, helping to create messaging for in-house. Okay, all of that, do we even really need that? Because with the help of AI and people being more savvy about creating their own emails and whatnot, we don't even really need that. I think that the trend of the marketing roles shifting is a good
hmm
thing because we always should have had a hand in the revenue. That, to me, that's always what marketing's been about. This is another
right,
example of AI being like a great way of exposing weaknesses. If you were not handling marketing this way to begin with, you had a weekend marketing department. Like, it
right,
has a way of exposing inconsistencies and gaps in places that you should have had addressed in your personnel, and
right.
you
And
didn't, and now you need to.
it really is important because, for those of you listening that have, let's just say, an agency, or you have a PPC guy, or you have a whatever you want to call it, right? I have someone to do that for me, social media intern, whatever it is. Make sure every member that is handling any channel of your marketing understands big picture, understands, hey, here's what's happening on the PPC side. Here's what's happening on the social media side. Here's what we're doing on the search side, the AI side, the GEO side, the AEO side. Here's what we're doing, right? Here's what we're doing to build citations. Here's what we're doing in email marketing, because it's all important. You need a coach and a quarterback that really understands these channels well and pull it together. So, John, what do you think? Really quick, want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, like that's one of like the more like enticing things about marketing is you go in and you're doing tons of different things, especially now. Um, like you said, in the past there have been many different roles and very specialized areas of marketing, but I think now because of AI, I agree that everything is getting more generalized. And in some ways, maybe maybe for the worse in some ways, like maybe people not being specialized means some messaging somewhere might be a little bit more inconsistent, or the quality might be a little bit more inconsistent. But people have the chance to do different things. And I think having a more diverse job will make people, more passionate about what they're doing, or feel
Mhm.
like they're not doing the same thing over and over again and just getting, bored of it.
Right. Absolutely. Moving on. Next article is from The Drum. Is social media still social? The Gen Z strategist helping brands rethink influence. I thought this was a great article, and it was great because it was written by, someone younger in the Gen Z generation that literally talks about, is social media still social? That question. I'll tell you, my opinion, it is not. It is absolutely not. I remember managing campaigns on Facebook, Instagram, heck, even before that on MySpace, right? I'm old. It's okay. And on Twitter when it was called Twitter, right? Where you would post something and it would literally be like the floodgates would open. People were dying to communicate, dying to really having that yearning of, oh, someone is sharing a photo or a thought that I'm interested in, that I've followed this page, or in the algorithm would serve it up to them and they would see it and they would like it, they would share it, they would talk about it and clearly interact. I believe that still happens, but I don't think it happens the same way as it used to. I mean, I'm seeing it. I see it firsthand. In in the B2B world, it's I think worse than the B2C world. I think the only B2B platform that actually has engagement is LinkedIn, and when it does, it tends to be have an underlying negative, and that's my own opinion, and a lot of pat each other on the back type, good old boy network, which I don't really like, but I love LinkedIn, right? I've been using it since 2005. I'm not going to abandon an audience that we've built, spent many years building. The point is, social is different now, and that's the question. So are we maybe turning a page where people don't want to communicate in social media anymore? I don't know. Catherine, John, what do you guys think on that?
Yeah, when those social media sites came out, the big ones, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter at the time,
Yep.
I was a full-time writer with my own writing business. And as an extrovert, my days were kind of isolating. So I was using social media to literally be social. I would use the DMs to keep in touch with some of my friends. I mean, I had actually the early days of my writing business, there were no smartphones. So texting was not easy. So I was using these platforms as sort of like a water cooler kind of feeling at
Right.
work. You need to get up from your desk, you need to take a little brain break. Oh, I'm going to see what's going on my Twitter feed and get some news, chit chat with some people, see if I can't meet other writers. I learned how to do some WordPress stuff back then. And when I had questions, I knew that I had a lot of developers in my friend list. They would help me. I'd be like, how do you wrap a text around an image? Anyway, it was a very social thing at first. And over the years, especially as, for example, advertising started to come out, people started to realize that they can use social media to reach an audience, affiliate marketing, all that kind of stuff. It started to change the character of the social networks, and brands and businesses started using it. And then the group of us that were using it for social stuff said, you know what, never mind. I'm just going
Right.
to go out after work. I'm not going to do this anymore. I can't sustain this. And now it's getting cluttered with businesses and advertisements. And fast forward to now, to this article,
Yeah.
it's interesting to think about how now we need to help brands rethink how to use it more socially. It's a very interesting sort of full circle thing that's happening right now.
Yeah. I also think, and this is my 2 cents, and then John, I want to get your opinion because you're in the Gen Z audience. I mean, you are.
Mm.
So, and you're a marketer, so I want to get your opinion. But I believe the beginning of the end of social media, my opinion, was during COVID. I think personally, this is just my opinion. I think people got severely burnt out from it, burnt out from the negativity and the political environment. And even now, it's sustained of how dysfunctional. I mean, it's really is awful. I mean, it's just awful.
Mm.
Like there's no camaraderie of actually having intelligent discussions And so my opinion is I think that has soured a lot of people in social media. I mean, they'll go to TikTok and just doom scroll looking at random stuff that they're interested in, that's funny videos and stuff like that. But once it gets too real, they're out. I think a lot of people are out, so I don't know. That's my opinion. I don't know. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think social media, like you said, especially after COVID, like it became way too corporate, right? It became so
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah,
lucrative that, it's all ads. I mean, I'll go on Instagram and I'll, scroll reels or whatever. And like every two reels is an ad.
I know.
I scroll right
Mm.
by it, but it's annoying, right? And the other
Right.
theory that I have, especially with platforms like Instagram, is you might see like less interaction because now your likes are public, right? So when you
Right.
like something, everyone else is going to see it. So why would I like something that like I only kind of was like I like that, right? Right?
Right.
It's like
Right. Right.
why
Right.
would I
Right.
like I don't want everybody to know everything that I like thought was funny or I thought was useful in some way. And then, I
Mm.
think that because of that, like it's returning to a lot of like sharing with each other, but more in more private spaces. Like you might DM somebody a
Right.
post when you
Yep.
like it instead of like, the back to the like thing. Like that's what the retweet was for, right? Like when you really
Right.
wanted somebody else to see something, you'd retweet it, right? But now like just liking something is like calling out to everybody on the planet, like I really like this post, right? And that's
like
my
like a
why like
like a declaration, like a
yeah, right,
Yeah,
declaration.
like
exactly, exactly.
yeah,
So
that's a
I think that's why you might also see like less interactions on your social
mhm.
platforms as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. I
That's a
agree.
good
Great
point.
points.
There was this reminds me a little bit of an SNL skit. You guys should check it out. Why did you say that? It was all about bringing people on this talk show to try to explore why they made the comments that they made, and it was funny. It's all out there. John's right, and
Yeah.
that's humor, but there's humor based in truth.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Moving on. Next article from Ad Age. AI agents are making media buying mistakes. How to catch and prevent them. So to me,
Oh boy.
interesting article. Right. So again, AI agents, and we do offer AI agent for marketing service. We don't get much activity on it, quite frankly, because I think the people that understand AI and understand what agents can do for marketing related tasks know that sometimes the I would say the punch isn't worth it, so to speak.
Mm.
That it's still buggy. It's better than it was maybe a year ago, but it's still not like we're envisioning it, right? And this just goes to show you, I would never personally spend my own money, our company's money, or clients' money and have AI have chat or Claude or Gemini autonomously make media buying decisions without me actually reviewing it and approving it before it goes live. I'm just saying. I mean, that's
Yep.
money we're talking about, right? That's not, writing a social media post or right creating a graphic. We're talking about spending, ad dollars. So I think we will get there. I think we will. We'll get to a time where it will be wonderful and it will save a lot of time. Like just think of how far, the LLMs have come from the last 2 years, 3 years since they went live in 2023. Since chat went live 2023 on the on the web, right? When it came out of beta, think of where we're at now. Think of where we'll be 3 years from now. I think we'll get there. Now's not really the time to trust it. So I don't know. What do you guys
Hmm.
think on that? It's my opinion.
So I have a couple of really minuscule agents set up for myself right now. One is to aggregate some news posts for me. The other is to compile. I gave a list of websites to check for events because I'm a ballroom dancer and I like to keep tabs on it. I'm a poet. I do all these things. And AI can't even handle that,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. I don't know what I'm getting back from day to day or week to week. For example, the event one week, all I got was it only read one of the websites and gave me all of the events listed at this bookstore. I gave it a list of maybe 30 websites to check, and it just did one or two checks. So it's like they went just to the top. If it can barely do that, I am not I'm not trusting it to make ad buying,
Yeah,
media buying
yeah.
decisions. That's for
I
sure.
agree.
It's too
I
soon.
agree.
Too soon to use AI this way. It needs to be able to do the basic stuff first before I'll trust it for this kind of stuff.
I agree. John, what do you think?
Yeah, to me, sometimes AI feels like somebody who like thinks they're really really smart, like the LLMs, right? Where it'll tell you things so confidently, but it's wrong so much of the time. And if you know it's wrong,
I
you
know,
know
I
it's
know.
wrong. So it's
I
like,
know.
why would I, if I can't trust it to, like you said, look at a website and give me the events? Yeah, I'm not going to trust it with anything that has to do with money or anything that has to do with my brand like that.
Right.
Right.
It's going to make mistakes, and you're going to spend more time correcting it than it's worth.
Right. I agree. I agree.
Yep.
Moving on, got a few more for today, and we'll wrap here. Next article is from Search Engine Land: 7 tools for doing AEO now. So, just for those of you that don't know what an AEO is, so you have AI SEO. That's what we call the umbrella of AI search, and under that you have generative engine optimization, and that is the creating the clarity of a product, service, or brand or company. And then you have answer engine optimization, or AEO, which are answers of content that's related. And so these are tools, according to Search Engine Land, that are great. And I'm not going to go through all the tools. The number one tool is AI assistance, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. I agree with that. Coming up with, and we've tested a lot of the tools on this list and a lot of other tools as well, especially on the generative engine optimization side of things and the AI brand piece of it and visibility piece. And I'll tell you, going to the source themselves is often very helpful. So putting in all the parameters of your audiences, all the variables, the goals, looking at your content, looking at looking at the competitive landscape, looking at what your competitors' content looks like, and then using some of the AI platforms like Chat, Claude, or Perplexity. I think it's great. I think it's really great. Out of the three, I'll tell you, I probably for answer engine optimization, I would probably stick with Chat first, then Perplexity, then Claude. Claude, it's the technical beast. Really for the coding and app development stuff like that. But for this intensive purpose, Chat is great. Perplex is good. Actually, Copilot's pretty good too. Did make the cut. So, but anyway, so that just thought on that. Good article. I'm going to keep moving here because we're
Mhm.
almost at the
Mhm.
hour break, at the hour time slot. And then for those of you that aren't joining us live on the Brick Marketing website, brickmarketing.com/live, this also will be available on all major podcast platforms later this evening. So feel free to check it out. Next, I have one more after this article from Search Engine Journal: the ROI problem with AI traffic no one is measuring correctly. Brilliant article. Where basically what it's basically talking about, and the article, I definitely recommend that you all go to Search Engine Journal and read this one. But what's interesting on this is it's talking about how the definition, really what it boils down to, that the definition of ROI is really kind of changing. That if there's no actual ROI that's tangible, can you still give it an ROI? And brands, and it even says here that brands will need to invest in visibility work whose returns are not expressed in clicks or referral traffic, right? So what's interesting, again, very kind of more advanced article in Search Engine Journal, great article, but I highly recommend it. But to me, again, it just sticks to the point of building the brand. And if your ROI, again, we all think of ROI of, I'm spending $100 in advertising, and what is my return on that advertising investment? That is still the case, but the narrative for that is changing because AI is changing it, right? If someone in between that process sees your ad, doesn't buy from you, but then goes to, you know, ChatGPT and sees your brand again and organically clicks on you, and researches your brand or product or service, and then they become a customer. To me, that advertising has influenced that purchase. So there is an actual ROI on that ad spend, but you can't see that. And if and if it's a B2B sale, for instance, and someone in that individual is asked, would you find out about us chat? But they saw your ads, right? So it's slippery slope, but I think that it is a problem. But the moral of the story is market a lot of ways. I mean, that's the moral of this whole podcast today. And I have a feeling we're going to be talking about this every week in some shape, way, or fashion. And this just goes to that. This just feeds right into that point. So, Catherine, John, if you guys share your thoughts on this.
Right now, we're some leads that come in, some of the clients that we have, people that we've talked to, how did this lead come in? And the
Right.
answer has to be, I don't know, because there just isn't the data right now to track
Mm-hmm.
it, because what we're seeing is that a lot of leads that do come in are pretty warm, whereas they may not have been. And because what's happening, they might be in the AI answers gathering data and information about a solution that they need, and then they eventually get connected to your company. We don't have data for any of that. Once they
Right.
get connected to your company in an AI answers sort of format, then they might go and look. So and type in your website or look up your brand to try to find more information, and we're seeing branded traffic coming to the site sort of increasing, and we're seeing the leads being a lot warmer, and it's because of this, but there's no in between data for us to look at, so we can't know for sure. We think it's coming from AI, but it's a guess without looking at the numbers, and we're not going to be able to look at the numbers till that data
Right.
is available.
Yeah, John, what do you think? Good point.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't know now that people might you don't know where people are finding your brand first, right? Especially with AI, because when it comes through, it just comes through, right? Like anything organic and AI, talking to your chat GPT is considered far more organic than, a paid advertisement. Like so you don't know if somebody saw, like you said, saw your ad, then later
Mm-hmm.
saw your brand in chat GPT somehow and was like, oh, the neurons connected and they're like, you know what, I'm going to go with this person, right? You
Right.
don't have that data. I completely agree with that. It's hard to know where people really are, like where that first touch point is these days, and then you
Yeah.
can't you
Yeah.
can't figure out what your ROI is at that point.
No, it's so true. And yeah, and then I'll tell you, last article for today is on the Brick Marketing website. And the title is AI SEO or GEO increases marketing ROI. This literally is what we're exactly talking about, right? And
Yeah.
so it is very true. And I'll tell you, we're seeing this with clients, literally, that you're active, and in trade show marketing, and you're doing PR, and you have a good SEO presence, and you're investing in PPC, and it's like you're hitting all these channels, and it's like where do you give that ROI to, right? So like, is it the first point or the last point? In my mind, it's a blended attribution, personally. But unless I don't think right now the technology exists. It just doesn't. Like, how can we track that, right? It's like we can't. We've always, by the way, back, when AI wasn't in play at all. We've always, for instance, we would have a client that would, have a big, have like a TV ad run, and then what would we do? We would ramp up their PPC for their branded search,
Mhm.
so it would capture people that don't know what the website did. They just search for the brand, and they didn't want any competitors to come up that might be bidding on their brand. So then they're capturing people's info. So PPC technically captured the person in, but how'd they hear about the brand? From that TV ad. right? Unfortunately, in today's world, it's not that linear anymore. It's muddled, right? So in my mind, it's, I would say, just a blended approach. If AI didn't exist, my mind would be blended but less blended. If you know that, okay, we're doing a huge trade show and you're B2B and you're running retargeting ads during that trade show, and let's just say you're putting a series of social media posts at the same time using the hashtags. This is going back years ago, using hashtags, maybe promoting it, maybe doing, joining a podcast or having an influencer help you promote that event. Then you could more or less know that it came from that event. The event and then all these other channels led to the capture. It's not like that now. So yeah. So, but I think I mean, it really is true though. Again, this just comes to those of you who are in charge of your marketing, in charge of, your companies. Now is the time to invest in AI search. And I know a lot of you are probably like, oh, we're going to try it on our own for a while. Try it on your own. But then when you see you're not getting the results that you should be, or you could be, work with companies like us or professionals in general that and the devil's advocate, because I've actually heard this from a few folks recently that said, oh, well, AI SEO is so new. How is anyone an expert? Let me tell you how anyone's an expert. How, for those of us that have been marketing for decades, we're experts at it. It's a different communications vehicle, right? So I don't know. Catherine, what do you think? John, I want to
I
get
think that
your feedback, and then we'll call it for today.
this goes along with what we said and what we've been saying, that it's clear that AI is changing the funnel and how
Mm-hmm.
people behave in the funnel. And it is definitely increasing the ROI. It's kind of amazing because, for example, we have a client whose leads used to come in, and it's just they have a long sales cycle.
Right,
But AI appears to be cutting the sales cycle down because their first phone call used to be, "We're interested in this. What can you do for me? Uh,
right,
let's schedule a follow-on call." And now they're showing up on their first call saying, "All right, we're ready to go. We're interested in this. We want to get things in motion." It went from discovery to, "Hi, we're ready." So the quality of the leads coming in has increased. We can't measure it, unfortunately, but we can measure the after effect.
right.
We can measure what happens when the phone rings, and that is a measurable thing. And the only logical explanation is that AI is increasing this marketing ROI,
Yep,
in my
yep.
opinion.
I agree. I agree. John, what do you think?
Yeah, and like we've said, with no tools, it's hard to really track it. Get raw numbers. You just can't right now. But like we've been saying for weeks, and since the beginning of the Brick Live podcast, is like the leads are warmer. Like that's just
Right,
how it is, and what we've been seeing ourselves. So whatever you're doing is is having like an effect in AI, and people are finding your brand, and they're just warmer to it because, like I was saying in the last one, it's seen as a more organic finding of a brand, right? So um I think that whatever you're doing, whether it's you know ad campaigns or whatever, that everything ends up funneling into this like AI ecosystem. It has more value now. It's all like within one larger thing rather than like little bubbles outside of each
Mhm.
other.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree. Great point. Great point.
Yes.
All right. So, on that note, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today on the Brick Marketing Live podcast. We will be live with you next Wednesday, May 20th at 3 p.m. Check it out on the brickmarketing.com/live on our website, on the LinkedIn page, on the Brick Marketing LinkedIn page, Brick Marketing Facebook page. Also, we will be sharing this throughout our social media, so feel free to follow Brick Marketing everywhere at Brick Marketing. And we have upcoming webinars coming up for free So feel free to register on the Brick Marketing website. And again, I'd like to thank Catherine John. Great job as always. And thank you all for listening. And we will see you all next week.